Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about the Indianapolis Colts offense in 2021 and what to expect from them next season. Before we get started though, please drop a quick like and a sub on today's video. That would really help my channel grow. I'd really appreciate that. And with that said, I hope you enjoy the video and let's dive right into it. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Colts offense next season. But before we get started on talking about that, we're going to talk about their offense last season with Phillip Rivers, with Jonathan Taylor, T.Y. Hilton. You can see those passing, rushing, and receiving yards leaders. Obviously, Phillip Rivers was their quarterback last year, so things are going to change a little bit. Obviously, they brought in Carson Wentz. And we'll talk about that a lot and what he brings to the table. But before we get started, let's talk about where they ranked among the teams in the NFL last year. So they ranked number 9th in points per game. And when we look at passing offense for a sec, they ranked number 11th in passing offense, as you can see right there. And then run offense, they were pretty solid, 11th in run offense too. So overall, this was a top 10 offense in the NFL last year. They were really good at running the football, really good at using the play action game, and really good with Phillip Rivers being accurate. But this year they don't have Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers retired, and Carson Wentz is now their new quarterback. And we're going to talk about what Carson Wentz brings to the table. So Carson Wentz, what I really like about Carson Wentz, I did make a Carson Wentz film session video just a little bit back a little while ago. If you want to check that out, that kind of highlights what I think he could bring to the table. But, what he brings is he brings his athleticism, he brings his big arm, he brings his ability to make big plays. But it's really the lack of big plays sometimes that are concerning. So last year with Philadelphia, I don't know what happened. 2,600 yards, 16 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Just an awful, horrendous season for Carson Wentz. It was terrible. It was really bad. And the reason for that is, sure, his receivers weren't really there. There were injuries. The offensive line was garbage. He had no time to throw. But also, he was making mistakes. He really was. And he struggled a lot. But when he plays well, and that's an if. Because remember, he has played at MVP levels before that big injury. And since that injury, everything's kind of gone downhill for him. But if he can revitalize his career in Indianapolis and even be 3/4 of his MVP self, the Indianapolis Colts have found a legit starting quarterback in the NFL. This is a guy that, when playing well, can be really accurate with the football. He can throw the football deep downfield. And more importantly, he can be dynamic with his legs and pick up yards on the run. So that's what Carson Wentz brings to the table, and he's a much more of a mobile guy. What he's going to be able to do is he's going to be able to use his legs to extend plays and use his legs to add mobility to this offense, add versatility to this offense, and add some speed and dynamic to this offense too. So I think Carson Wentz is a good fit in Indianapolis, especially with the players they have there. Obviously, strong running game, most importantly by Jonathan Taylor, who was absolutely fantastic last year in his rookie season. Just shy of 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, which was tied for 7th in the NFL. Remember, this guy was 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards and 10th in the NFL with rushing yards per attempt, with 5 average yards per rushing attempt. He was really good at running the football downhill, in between the tackles, outside the tackles, showing good speed, good strength, good size, good power. Had good games against the Steelers, had good games against the Raiders where he really showed up. I'm just trying to remember when Jonathan Taylor really popped off. He had a good game against the Jaguars late in the season. But overall, Jonathan Taylor really showed up late in the season, really put on a show, and I thought he did a really good job towards the end of that season last year. But when we look at their depth chart at running back, they're really deep at depth at running back. They've also got Marlon Mack. And don't forget, Marlon Mack was an 1,000-yard rusher two years ago. Just injury last year kind of sidelined him for the entire season after, I think it was week 1. And Jonathan Taylor kind of just took off from there. Mack can rush for 800 yards or 750 yards as a starter. I would not be concerned with that. And I think that 1-2 dynamic with Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack is really strong because they've got power, they've got speed, they've got size. But more importantly, they both have the ability to catch the ball in the backfield. But when we're talking about the ability to catch the ball in the backfield, you got to talk about Nyheim Hines. And when we talk about Nyheim Hines, he is that true pass catcher. And he reminds me almost of Austin Eckler, who is much more of a pass catcher than a runner. And that's exactly what Nyheim Hines is. He's much more of a pass catcher catcher than a runner. Really good on third downs. He's a good change of pace back. He had a massive week 1 last year to start the season off against Jacksonville. I think he scored like 2 touchdowns in that game. But overall, these running backs are deep, right? They've got the true complete running back in Jonathan Taylor. They've got a power back in Marlon Mack, and then they've got a true passing back, third down back, change of pace back with Nyheim Hines. And that's not dissimilar to what the Eagles have done with Carson Wentz in years prior. I mean, look at what they had with Miles Sanders, with Boston Scott, with Jordan Howard. Very similar dynamic in a way with that. So I think Carson Wentz will feel comfortable with those running backs because he's got a little bit of everything there. Passing the football, though, I mean, it starts with T.Y. Hilton. And although I do think T.Y. Hilton is past his prime 100%, I know Colts fans are like, no, he's still got it left in the tank. I don't think he's good anymore. From a pure, honest point of view, I don't think he has it anymore. But 56 catches last year, 762 receiving yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns. He's much more of a route runner. He's not super fast, but utilizes his shiftiness in route running to open up space. I don't think he quite has it anymore, but he's still capable of 800 yards receiving and 6 or so touchdowns. Solid number 1 receiver, but they've got a lot of wide receiver twos. I see T.Y. Hilton as a wide receiver 2. I also see Michael Pittman as a wide receiver 2, but I see potential with Michael Pittman. I get excited when I see him. 40 catches, 503 receiving yards, and a touchdown in his season last year on 61 targets. But overall, I mean, he's a long, lanky receiver, can go up and catch the football, but he can take the top off of defense a little bit, has that speed to really run those deeper routes. But overall, I like the mix of receivers this Colts team has. It's not just Michael Pittman, too. It's also Parris Campbell and Zach Pascal, too. Both of those guys are bigger receivers who use their speed well, who have a great acceleration, have a little bit of size, too, are good red zone threats. So, to be honest, I see 2 wide receiver 2s and 2 wide receiver 3s on this team. I don't really see a wide receiver 1, but I like the depth that these wide receivers have. T.Y. Hilton, I like what he brings, the leadership. I like the route running he brings. I like what Michael Pittman's size brings. And I like what Parris Campbell and Zach Pascal's speed do to this Colts offense. So I think they've got depth at wide receiver, although they're lacking a true number 1 receiver. And I know Colts fans will argue that T.Y. Hilton is that number 1 receiver. Tight ends wise, though, Jack Doyle, Mo-Alie-Cox. Obviously, they're not going to have Troy Burton. They didn't decide to bring him back, but the tight ends for the Colts have been a staple of their offense over the past few years, utilizing 2 tight end sets a lot more than some other teams in the NFL. I love Jack Doyle. I'm a huge Jack Doyle guy. This guy, I think, is one of the better tight ends in the NFL when healthy. He's just so consistent, and he's a yards after the catch guy. He's a gritty football player. He's good in the red zone. He's a good possession catch guy. I absolutely love his game. Super underrated. But overall, I mean, he's not great. I think he could put up 45 catches, 450 or so yards, and 4 or 5 touchdowns. But also Mo-Alie-Cox. Mo-Alie-Cox had a really nice year last year. But number one thing with Mo-Alie-Cox is he's so athletic. He's basically a basketball player. I think he actually did play basketball in high school. But he's a really good run blocker. That's his number 1 asset for sure, Mo-Alie-Cox. But also really good in the red zone, using his big frame to create touchdowns. Had a few really good weeks last year for that Colts team, especially early in the season. He was catching a lot of touchdown passes. So I like the dynamic between more of a pass-catching tight end in Jack Doyle, who's good in the open field, and Mo-Alie-Cox, who's much more of a really good run-blocking tight end, who can be really effective in the red zone. So I like the 1-2 punch at tight end. On the offensive line, though, this is one of the better offensive lines in the league, and I know they did lose Anthony Castonzo because of retirement, but they brought in Eric Fisher, who, he made a Pro Bowl last year, I'm pretty sure, and he's made a Pro Bowl before in his career. I think that's 2 Pro Bowls for Eric Fisher. Sure, he's not that, first overall pick caliber player anymore. He never was, but he's a Pro Bowl type player at left tackle. He's not as good as Anthony Castonzo, but he's a solid replacement. Quenton Nelson, obviously the best left guard in the NFL, an absolute mauler. You've got Ryan Kelly at center, super underrated, and then Mark Glowinski and the right tackle Braden Smith are super underrated too. Both those guys can really play some football. This offensive line has been elite for the past 3 seasons as soon as Quenton Nelson came into the league, just because of their solid play at the tackle position, their solid play at guard position, and obviously Ryan Kelly has been pretty good at center too. But this offensive line really helps open up the run game. They really help give whoever's playing quarterback some time in the pocket. And I think that Carson Wentz has the tools here to succeed. He's got a better offensive line than he had in Philadelphia. He's got better wide receivers and a better running back. Maybe he doesn't have a better running back. I don't know if Miles Sanders is better than Jonathan Taylor. I think there's an argument either way. But he's got better running backs here. He's got, I think, overall better receivers too. The Eagles really didn't have anyone on the outside, and maybe although tight end isn't an upgrade here, I think that overall the weapons are better. The offensive line's better. The coaching, I think, is better. I don't love Doug Peterson as a coach, if I'm going to be completely honest. So That said, I think Frank Reich can work some magic here with this offense. I think Carson Wentz can have a rebound year with the weapons that he has in his disposal right now. I like the receivers he has. I think that there's a good mix of size, speed, and strength, as well as red zone effectiveness. And then you've got 2 good tight ends, I think, that can be difference makers, a solid offensive line, a really good run game. I think Carson Wentz has that ability to put up 25 or so touchdowns and 12 or so interceptions, get the job done, and make this team go to the playoffs. Do I think that they're a top 10 offense in the NFL next year? If Carson Wentz plays like an MVP type player, then yeah, which we have seen before. But at the end of the day, I don't think that will happen. I think that this team will be somewhere around just above average next season. And with that said, that's pretty much going to end the video for today. Did you agree with my analysis? Why or why not? Leave your comments and thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, if you're new around here, please drop a like and a sub on today's video. I'd really appreciate that. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, see ya.